Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 1. Welcome to the Parent of an Alien Hedgehog Club. Chapter 9. With that one word, the entire atmosphere in the house changed and became charged, fraught with tension.
Did you say Robotnik?
Wade asked slowly, his mind full of the day those people in suits walked into the station, demanding to know about Tom, what he did, what kind of person he was, and if Wade knew where he went. Lol, the way their leader acted if he knew he had immunity from any and all consequences, how he walked with a confidence that couldn't be faked, that he honestly believed everyone else was beneath him.
Do you know him?
Of course we know him. You can't go back to him.
Shadow only looked mildly puzzled.
Why not?
Because he's evil. That guy tried to blow up the whole town. He wanted to kill me and almost did. Wade knows. He saw it.
All three of them turned towards Wade.
We don't know if it's the same person. I'll see what I can do later, but for now, let's eat.
Breakfast was a quiet affair, something Wade wouldn't have believed could happen with the three boys together.
So Shadow, how old are you?
Sonic suddenly asked out of nowhere. Shadow's gaze slid away, as if he was considering the question carefully. Then, he looked up.
How old are you?
He countered, looking directly at Silver.
Almost 11.
His gaze went to Sonic next.
Almost 13.
14. That's how old I am.
From where Wade was, he frowned. He didn't know that much about how they aged and how fast they grew, but Shadow did not look like he was older than Sonic. In fact, he was a bit smaller in size and weight than him. It made him wonder how truthful Shadow actually was. When they were done, Wade gathered up the bowls and walked into the kitchen, carefully gesturing for Sonic to follow him.
Robotnik, that guy you fought on Main Street, you sent him to another planet, right?
Sonic looked stricken but nodded.
Yeah, he's enjoying a luxury vacation on the Mushroom Planet.
Is there any way he could have escaped or come back?
There were a few seconds as Sonic thought about it.
It's possible that he would have to have rings or some other mode of teleportation to get back here. Are you going to try and call this person?
Well, I don't have a phone number, so no.
I don't think it's a good idea. Don't send it back to that guy. Please.
I'm still not sure on what I'm going to do, but I promise I won't send him into a dangerous situation.
Wade said, which seemed to be good enough for the blue hedgehog, who turned around and went back to his friends. The look of shock and surprise on Maddie's face would have been quite funny if it had happened any other time.
What do you mean there's another one?
They attract each other like magnets or something. I'm not sure.
Where is he?
He doesn't want to come out of the bedroom right now.
There might be something going on with him, or something. I'm not sure.
We asked him a lot of questions, that he only answered some of them.
Remember when I mentioned bringing Silver down to the clinic so I could get normals on him? How about that tomorrow? But you should bring both of them.
A grimace came over Wade's face, thinking about how in the few hours Shadow had been here, he had already shown being very reserved, lol, and wasn't sure how he'd take to being brought to a new place and subjected to being poked and prodded. But Wade slowly nodded.
We'll try. I'm not sure how it will go, but we can try.
So before your shift tomorrow.
Wade blew out a sigh. In this mess, he had all but forgotten that he had to go back to work. It was Sunday and tomorrow was the start of a new week, not to mention what he was going to do with Silver and Shadow. He had been bringing Silver in with him, but he was also aware that he couldn't do that forever.
Probably I'll call the clinic tomorrow to confirm. Will that work?
Hey, are you okay?
Just tired.
He waved her off. As the two of them left, Wade ran over things he needed to do for the rest of the day and found that all of them could wait until later. Now, he was going to do something else.
All right. You two are going to be quiet and amuse yourselves for a bit. I'm going to lay down for a bit.
Can we watch a movie?
Not right now, but maybe later. And stay inside the house, okay?
That said, he walked off in the direction of his bedroom and hoped for at least 2 uninterrupted hours of sleep. When Wade woke up a few hours later, he was relieved to find nothing catastrophic had happened while he slept. While he didn't feel completely refreshed, he felt as if he could survive until the evening, especially as he still had to cook dinner and then get some cleaning done. His bathtub was still in an atrocious state. At least Shadow and Silver had found something to do and were talking quietly.
How did he do that?
I just think about it and it happens. Can you do anything?
No.
How come you didn't have gloves or shoes? Did you lose them?
No, I used to have some, but they got too small for me and I finally left them behind. Which wasn't fun because that's when it got really cold.
That's too bad. Do you really have trouble remembering stuff?
Yes.
That's weird. Hi, Wade.
Wondering if they had either heard him or smelled him, Wade stepped out of the hallway.
Hi, guys.
He answered, walking by and headed up for the kitchen to get started on his to-do list. Once he tidied up the kitchen some and got dinner into the oven, Wade waited for the next time he saw Shadow go by.
Hey, you want to help me for a minute?
He asked casually. After a moment, Shadow agreed and followed him to the back door.
You stay here,
Wade said, as Shadow only had socks on.
and I'll bring you firewood. You take it to the living room.
Why?
It's for the stove. It keeps the house warm.
Wade explained, picking up 2 logs and handing them over. He was curious to see how strong Shadow was and saw that the dark hedgehog took them easily.
So, I was wondering, when you said you woke up and the humans told you about the ocean, how long ago was that?
Wade asked when Shadow returned. He had been watching for signs of Shadow limping again, but so far, he was now walking normally.
I don't remember.
Wade nodded, although he was becoming curious if Shadow really didn't remember all that he said, or if this was just a ploy, so he didn't have to talk about subjects that he didn't want to.
Was there snow on the ground?
No.
That alone was something, as it meant it had been before winter. Also meant that Shadow had been alone and outside by himself for over 3 months.
Do you remember what the temperature was like? Hot, warm, or just cold?
Wade asked as he handed over 3 logs this time. Shadow paused a moment before he took them.
It was warm, but not hot.
Wade said as he went back to the pile outside, thinking. He couldn't be sure, but he would have to guess that would mean around September, which meant the hedgehog had been alone and in the cold for almost 6 months. But then again, Montana was a landlocked state nowhere near the Pacific Ocean. If Shadow and the humans who had told him about the ocean were telling the truth, it meant that he had to have come from either Washington or Oregon State. Was 6 months enough time to walk across nearly 3 states? Coming back, he handed a few more logs to Shadow and then followed him inside.
That's good for now. Thanks for your help.
He fully expected Shadow to just drop his load of firewood in the living room and wander off. But instead, he just stood and watched as Wade put them in order carefully.
Why are you doing this?
Stocking firewood?
No, helping me. What do you have to gain from this?
Frowning, Wade rocked back on his heels.
Most people don't do things like helping someone who clearly needs it for gain. They do it because it needs to be done. And it's the right thing to do.
I still don't understand why you're doing this.
I don't think kids should have to earn the right to be safe and have their needs met. That's all. Speaking of which, do you want to brush out your fur?
Why?
Because you've got a lot of knots and it looks like a few gnats. You'll probably be more comfortable if you do. At least cut them out. I'll help you if you want.
Shadow eyed him suspiciously for a long moment, as if he was trying to determine his motives.
Fine.
It was a very long and slow process. Shadow obviously did not like having people in his personal space and was very jumpy, several times looking like he was close to bolting. Wade did his best to be calm and reassuring, gently using scissors to snip out the worst of the knots. When he was done, there was a clear difference. Shadow still looked mangy, as his fur was now at different lengths in several spots, but at least it was clean.
There. All done. You can do the last part yourself.
Wade said, sitting back and offering him a comb. Taking it, Shadow scowled.
Are you gonna want something?
Something in return? No. But if you really want to repay me, then verbally show your appreciation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wade wanted to keep talking to him, but since the hedgehog was near the end of his limit, he seemed to only want to take interactions in bite-sized chunks, like he was unused to it, and became easily overwhelmed and needed breaks to decompress.
All right, good talking to you.
The look he got in return from the hedgehog was baffled.
What?
I thought you were going to start asking more questions.
I wanted to come up, but I also noticed you don't like being constantly hounded. So, I'll leave you alone now.
He watched as Shadow walked off, half-heartedly tugging a comb through the white fur on his chest. Tom looked up and made a show of creating his neck to look around when Wade walked into the station the next day.
Where's your gaggle ducklings? I heard he picked up a new one.
At home watching a movie.
Wade said, peeling his coat, hat, and gloves off. He remembered reading somewhere that using screens as an electronic babysitting device was a bad idea. But he didn't care at the moment. The person who came up with that didn't have not one but two alien hedgehogs show up in their life in less than 2 weeks.
And yes, for now, lol.
How does this keep happening? Like, what are the odds, especially in a town of this size? I mean, one was crazy enough, but now there's 3 of them? I think we need to send a message back to that planet and tell them to keep better eye on their kids.
I'm not sure. Anyway, Shadow, that's his name, isn't staying. He wants to leave. He wants me to call someone to come get him.
Really?
And even weirder, the guy's name is Robotnik.
That got an instant reaction out of Tom as he nearly jumped out of his chair, his posture changing to a more defensive one.
What? Are you serious?
When you talked to that guy who came for Sonic, you didn't happen to get his first name, did you?
He mentioned at one point he instead just called him wrong, but he didn't say if that was his first name or not. Other than that, he just referred to himself as Dr. Robotnik. Why?
Because the person's shadow wants me to try and find for him. He says his first name is Gerald. Gerald Robotnik.
I see. Wait, are you actually considering it?
I don't know. Sonic all but begged me not to.
Normally, I would not recommend you taking advice from my middle school-aged alien son. But in this case, it's sound. Even if they're not the same person, they could be related and I just don't think it could end well.
I don't know. I really don't right now.
Are you alright?
Rubbing at his temples, Wade sat down at his desk before he answered.
I'm just a bit stressed out over the situation. What was that thing that teenage kid said a few months ago? The one who was arrested for shoplifting.
David?
Yeah, him. Everything happened so much. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Take my normal stress levels and just amplify them, which is something I wanted to ask you about. Would you be okay if I took a bit of time off just to deal with this? It would really help. Just let me get Shadow squared away and then maybe spend some more time with Silver.
He wasn't really sure what all that would entail or how this would work, or if push came to shove, what would he actually do with Shadow? But Wade knew one thing. He didn't need to worrying about if he was going to be late to work or what the kids would be up to for 8 hours while he was gone.
Of course, how many vacation days do you have saved up?
10 sick days and 15 vacation days. I don't want to use all of them, just in case something else comes up in the future.
Understandable. What if you used 5 sick days, which would cover this week? I'll just say that you called in sick every day this week, and then also today, you submit 10 days of vacation, starting next Monday? Altogether, that will get you 3 total weeks off. Would that be enough?
Are you sure? 3 weeks alone?
I'm sure. Besides, you're a dad now. Consider this your paternity leave. But if we actually do have something happen, and I honestly need the help, would it be okay if I called you?
Of course. I'm going to submit this and then check on my email real quick and head back home.
Once all that was done, Wade hesitated for a moment. This Robotnik guy. While he wasn't sure if he was going to attempt to get into contact with him or not, Wade was still curious about him, and he was a police officer. It wouldn't hurt to do a little digging to see if they were the same, and what kind of person he was. On a whim, Wade typed Gerald Verbonik into the federal database and waited to see if it got any hits. If the guy had ever been arrested or charged with a crime, it would be listed here. Surprisingly, it did. The most curious part was, it was a closed and sealed case from the 1960s in Washington, D.C. Because of the time, it hadn't been digitized, and there were only hard copies available. The database asked if he wanted a hard copy mailed to him. Taking a deep breath, Wade confirmed that he did, and then entered the station's address for where he wanted it sent to, getting confirmation that it would arrive within 3 to 5 business days.
I did want to ask you something. You know how Maddie and I started Sonic in school, right?
Actually, I didn't.
Well, we did. Just half days right now. But it's been really good for him. He really needs to be doing stuff and be around other kids, not just sitting at home and doing nothing. Have you thought about doing something like that for Silver?
Wade hadn't, and the first thought that came to mind wasn't a positive one. Silver had opened up and was more comfortable around them. He still was pretty shy around those he didn't know, and that was almost everyone else in this town. Not to mention, all the kids his age will be twice his size, and he would stand out immediately, and education-wise, he was very behind. The entire experience might be completely overwhelming for him.
I haven't. I'm also not sure if it's a good idea. There's still a lot he needs to adjust to. Lol.
Just something to think about. Doesn't have to be right now. It's all smart. Maybe you can make a goal of getting him ready to start going in September.
I'll think about it.
Just wanted to throw that out there. Oh, by the way, you've gotten a letter. It somehow got delivered here instead of your house.
Puzzled, Wade came back to fetch it. Quickly, he scanned the return address and scoffed. Lol.
This again?
Without opening it, he put the entire letter, envelope, and all through the shredder.
Bad news?
Just someone who can't seem to understand what no means thanks again so much. And if something actually does happen, don't be afraid to call.
Will do. Take good care of your kids.
Ignoring his use of plural, Wade waved goodbye and headed back outside into the cold. Heading home, it felt like a weight had been lifted. While the time off from work didn't solve all his problems, it sure made things a lot easier. He could get a better handle on this situation and have some time to figure this all out. The fact that it would all be paid time off was even better. It might be difficult, but he could handle this. At least that's what Wade was thinking when he arrived home and opened up the front door.